So, imagine this. You're sick, curled up on the couch, just trying to survive the worst flu of your life. Then, out of nowhere, your brother and mother show up at your door with a fake lawyer and some shady papers, trying to take your $5 million property. But here's the twist: you're not going down without a fight. Stick around to find out how this all unfolds. Oh, and hey, where in the world are you all watching from today? Drop a comment below. I'd love to know. It was one of those days where the world feels like it's in slow motion. You know, the kind of gray, drizzly Tuesday that seems to seep right into your bones. I was already feeling fragile, feverish, curled up on my sofa, wrapped in a weighted blanket. I could barely move. My head throbbed like someone was hammering it. My throat felt like sandpaper, and my muscles, well, they ached in ways I didn't even know were possible. And let's be honest, this wasn't just the flu. It was that special kind of flu that knocks the wind out of you and makes everything feel far too heavy. But it wasn't just the sickness that had me feeling off. There was something else, something creeping in that I couldn't quite put my finger on. My phone buzzed on the coffee table, but I ignored it. It buzzed again, and then again. I let out a little groan, wishing the world would just leave me alone for a while. Finally, I reached for the phone, wincing at the bright screen. It was Andrew, my brother. Ugh, of course it was. Of all the people to bother me while I was trying to ride out this flu, it had to be him. I answered, hoping my voice didn't sound as bad as I felt. "Hannah," he said. His voice was, well, it was the kind of sickeningly sweet tone I hadn't heard in years. The one that always made me feel like something was off, like he was trying just a little too hard to sound like he cared. "Big news. Mom and I are in the area. We're swinging by the farmhouse in about 20 minutes. We have some legal papers to go over with you." Now, I'm not one to panic easily, but let me tell you, something about his words hit me like a freight train. The farmhouse? What legal papers? What was he talking about? The fog of fever clouded my brain. But one thing was clear: I was too sick to deal with whatever he was about to throw my way. "The farmhouse," I repeated, confused. My grandparents' farmhouse, the one I'd inherited 6 months ago. But I was sick. Why would they show up now? What was going on? I wasn't ready for a confrontation, let alone a legal one. "Oh, don't be so dramatic," Andrew scoffed, his tone switching instantly from fake sweet to his usual impatient, almost dismissive self. "Just be there. We're bringing someone who's going to help streamline this whole inheritance thing. It's for the best." Before I could even make sense of what he meant by streamline, he hung up. Just like that. No get better soon, no take care of yourself, nothing. Just, "We're bringing someone." And then he was gone. A cold dread settled in my stomach, sharp and unsettling. I hadn't been feeling well for days, but now the sickness seemed to intensify, and the thoughts swirling in my mind were a mix of confusion, dread, and disbelief. The farmhouse, the property I'd worked my butt off to save, it wasn't just some old family house. It was a $5 million property that had been left to me by my grandparents. A wreck? Yes, but it was mine. It was our responsibility, my inheritance. And now, suddenly, it felt like something was slipping through my fingers. I pushed myself off the sofa, my legs unsteady, the floor beneath me swaying like a ship in rough seas. I had to make sense of this. My profession as an estate appraiser meant I knew paperwork. I lived and breathed deeds, titles, and all those legal documents that most people just shoved into a drawer and hoped they'd never have to deal with. I knew the ins and outs of property law like the back of my hand, and yet, in that moment, I couldn't make heads or tails of what Andrew was up to. The farmhouse was a mess when I inherited it. My grandparents had left me a mountain of debt, hidden reverse mortgages, back taxes, and liens. The property wasn't just a home, it was a financial disaster, but I took it on. I didn't have a choice. It wasn't just about the house. It was about our family legacy, and I couldn't let it slip away. Not like that. My mother, Margaret, and Andrew had wanted nothing to do with it. They called it a money pit and waved it off as something that wasn't worth saving. They didn't care about the history, the memories, or the effort that went into keeping it alive. I took out a personal loan, liquidated my own retirement accounts, and spent months in probate court fighting tooth and nail to keep it, and I did it. 6 months ago, the deed was mine, recorded in the county under my name, Hannah M. and Gable. As the sole owner, I hadn't told them when it was finalized. It wasn't worth it. Instead, I'd quietly spent my weekends restoring the place, room by room, piece by piece. It was mine, and I was rebuilding it. But now, Andrew and my mother were showing up, claiming they had some legal papers to go over, and I couldn't shake the feeling that this was no innocent visit. I felt a deep, gnawing suspicion that something wasn't right. I stumbled to the window and looked out at the gravel driveway. My stomach tightened. Was I ready for whatever they were about to throw at me? The minutes dragged by like hours. Every little sound seemed amplified, the wind rustling the trees outside, the hum of the heater in the corner, the drip of water from the faucet in the kitchen. I felt nauseous, dizzy, disconnected from everything around me. I tried to focus, but my fever made everything fuzzy. Then, I heard the crunch of tires on gravel. My heart skipped a beat. They were here, and as I looked out the window, I saw a shiny, unfamiliar luxury sedan pulling up the driveway. My mother's beige sedan pulled in behind it. My mother, Margaret, got out first, dressed in her Sunday best, looking like she was about to go to church. Andrew bounded out of the driver's seat, grinning ear to ear, wearing a suit that was way too expensive for him. And from the back seat emerged a man I didn't know, carrying a cheap-looking briefcase. He looked less like a lawyer and more like a used car salesman. They marched up to the porch, Andrew leading the way, and before I could even think to brace myself, he shoved the door open. "Hannah, there you are," he said, like everything was normal, like he hadn't just dropped this bomb on me over the phone. "You look terrible." "I'm sick, Andrew," I croaked, clutching my robe tightly, trying to stay steady on my feet. "Well, this will either make you feel better or worse. Depends on how you look at it," he said with a little laugh, motioning to the stranger behind him. "This is Mr. Peters. He's our legal counsel. Mom and I have been talking, and we've decided that this whole arrangement just isn't fair." My head was swimming, but I managed to hold my ground. "What are you talking about?" "What's not fair?" My mother, avoiding my eyes, nodded in agreement. "It's true, dear. The property is worth so much. It's not right for one child to have it all." I stared at them. The betrayal, the audacity, the anger inside me started bubbling up, but I didn't let it show. They had abandoned me when I was drowning in debt, when I was fighting for this place, and now they were here with a fake lawyer and some shady papers telling me that I had to give up what was mine. I was dizzy, sick, but I wasn't stupid, and something in me snapped. Andrew, clearly not reading the room, started pacing around the foyer, his hands gesturing wildly. "You've done some work," he commented, tapping a hand on the solid mahogany new post I had personally refinished. Good. That'll save us some trouble." "Us?" I managed to croak, my voice weak but firm. "Yes, us, Hannah," my mother said, finally meeting my eyes. Her expression wasn't one of concern for her sick daughter, it was one of cold, impatient resolve. Andrew has a new business venture, a big one, and he needs capital. This house, this land, it's the capital. My blood ran cold. So you're just going to take it? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Don't be dramatic, Andrew snapped. We're not taking it. We're reallocating it. Mr. Peters has the papers. The man in the cheap suit stepped forward, clicking open his briefcase with a flourish. He pulled out a stack of papers like he was unveiling a treasure. M. Gable, he said, his voice deep and rehearsed. We have here a motion to contest the probate ruling based on undue influence and a unequal distribution of familial assets. I barely processed the words, but they sounded wrong. I had spent months working with lawyers, reviewing the will, making sure everything was above board. This wasn't just some family disagreement. This was a carefully orchestrated attack, and I was going to have to fight for everything I had. I didn't even have time to respond before Mr. Peters continued, handing me the papers. This is a family settlement. See, your mother is co-heir to the original estate. She wasn't co-heir, I interrupted, my voice rising with the anger I had kept bottled up for months. Grandma's will was specific. It was left to me. You both saw the will. Andrew's face twisted in disgust. The will you probably tricked her into signing it, he shouted. I was in a different state when she signed it. Enough was enough. I wasn't going to sit there and let them walk all over me. Andrew, I said, I was in college. I wasn't even around when she signed it. My mother stepped forward, cutting off my words. Enough, she snapped, her voice cold. This is how it's going to be. We're moving forward. This is what's fair. Andrew deserves his chance. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You have until Friday to clear out your things, she said, her tone final. The movers will be here on Saturday. The door slammed shut, and I was left standing there, sick, betrayed, and completely alone. But as I stood there, a cold, icy calm began to settle over me. I wasn't going to give up without a fight. They'd forgotten who I was, what I knew, and what I could do. They'd underestimated me, and they were going to regret it. The moment they stepped onto the porch, I felt my pulse quicken. Andrew and my mother were walking toward the door, and the strange man, Mr. Peters, trailed behind them like some kind of shadow. I hadn't expected this. Not today. Not like this. I had been bracing myself for something. But this, no. Not this. They didn't even knock. Andrew just shoved the door open without a second thought, like he owned the place, like everything was just as it should be. Hannah, there you are, he said, his voice dripping with that fake cheerfulness that made my stomach churn. His eyes flicked over me, taking in my sickly state, my robe wrapped tightly around me like some shield against whatever he was about to throw at me. You look terrible. I squeezed my eyes shut for a moment, holding back the wave of nausea that threatened to rise with his words. My voice came out weak, barely above a whisper. I'm sick. Andrew, I managed to say, clutching the fabric of my robe like it was the only thing keeping me grounded. Well, this will either make you feel better or worse. Depends on how you look at it, he said with a laugh that was more dismissive than comforting. His gaze flicked toward the man standing behind him. This is Mr. Peters. He's our legal counsel. My head swam with confusion. Legal counsel, I repeated, blinking rapidly as I tried to make sense of what was happening. Mom and I have been talking, Andrew continued. Ignoring the obvious strain in my voice, he motioned for me to listen. We've decided that this whole arrangement just isn't fair. Fair. My blood ran cold. What was he talking about? What was unfair? What did he mean by arrangement? I could barely process what was coming next as Andrew spoke, his words speeding up, like he was in a rush to make me see things his way. The property's worth so much, he said, his tone turning a little too smooth. It's not right for one child to have it all. My heart hammered in my chest. The property. My property, I wasn't even sure if I was hearing him right. They wanted to take it from me. They thought it wasn't right for me to have it all. The idea was so absurd, so off the charts ridiculous, that it took me a moment to truly grasp what was happening. My mother, who had wanted nothing to do with this farmhouse for years, was now standing behind him, nodding in agreement. "It's true, dear," she added, her voice a hollow echo of concern. "The property is worth so much. It's not right for one child to have it all." The audacity, the betrayal. I felt the sickness I'd been battling intensify, not from the flu, but from the overwhelming wave of anger that surged through me. They were here, standing in my home, demanding my property. After they had abandoned me when I needed them most, I opened my mouth to speak, but the words didn't come out right away. I was sick. Sure, I was weak. Definitely. But none of that mattered right now. Not with them here, not with this situation unfolding before me. Andrew's voice was a rapid fire of words, his hands moving wildly as he continued. "Well, this is the part where we make it right. We'll get everything in order, get the legal papers, and then we'll move forward." Move forward. What did that even mean? I felt my body grow cold, my mind racing with 1,000 thoughts, none of them making sense. "What are you talking about?" I asked, barely able to get the words out through my dry throat. Andrew was already moving past me, not giving me the chance to process anything. He was on autopilot, his mind set on what he wanted, and he wasn't going to let anything or anyone stop him. He stepped into the foyer, Mr. Peters following behind him like some obedient lapdog. The man's face was stiff, too stiff. He looked like he was trying to be official, but something about him just didn't sit right with me. He was wearing a cheap suit, his hair was slicked back in a way that seemed more out of place here than anything else. And then there was that briefcase, the one he clutched to his side like it held something important, something I was about to find out was anything but. Andrew wasn't stopping. He kept talking, his voice growing louder, more insistent. "You've done some work," he said, tapping his hand on the solid mahogany new post I had refinished myself. I almost couldn't believe it, the sheer nerve of it. Good. That'll save us some trouble." I felt my blood run cold. "Us," I croaked, the words slipping out before I could stop them. "Yes, us, Hannah." My mother stepped forward then, her eyes now fixed on mine with a look I couldn't read. Not in the state I was in. It wasn't concern, it wasn't care. It was something colder, more calculating. "Andrew has a new business venture," she said, her voice hard, as if delivering some kind of ultimatum. "A big one, and he needs capital." The words hit me like a punch in the stomach. Capital. He wanted capital. My heart was pounding now, my breath shallow as I tried to hold it all together. "This house, this land," my mother continued, her tone cold and firm. "It's the capital." So that was it. This wasn't about inheritance. It wasn't about family. It was about money. It was about Andrew needing something that wasn't just his. And now, here they were, demanding what was mine, like I didn't have a say in any of it. "So you're just gonna take it?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Don't be dramatic," Andrew snapped, his smile faltering for just a second, but only just. "We're not taking it. We're reallocating it." He motioned to Mr. Peters, who stepped forward with a theatrical air, his briefcase snapping open with a flourish. I could barely keep my eyes open, my fever making everything blur around me, but something inside me snapped. This wasn't right. This wasn't just a family disagreement. This was something darker, something calculated. And it wasn't just a matter of money. It was my life, my home, my inheritance. "Mr. Peter spoke then, his voice low and rehearsed, like he had said these words 100 times before. Gable, he said, looking down at the papers in his hand. We have here a motion to contest the probate ruling based on undue influence and unequal distribution of familial assets. I stared at him, the words not even registering at first. My mind was too foggy from the flu, too overwhelmed by what was happening. But then, as the words began to sink in, something clicked. What? I gasped, my voice hoarse. You can't do this! Andrew's smug smile faltered for a second, his eyes flicking over to Mr. Peters, but the man quickly recovered, his expression never changing. But this is a new filing. Mr. Peters said, holding up the papers like they were a winning lottery ticket. A family settlement. See, your mother is co-heir to the original estate. I felt a jolt run through me, a shock so powerful it made my heart skip a beat. She wasn't co-heir, I snapped, the words spilling out before I could even stop them. Grandma's will was specific. It was left to me. You both saw the will. Andrew's face twisted with a kind of rage I hadn't seen in years. The will, you probably tricked her into signing it, he shouted, his voice rising. I was in a different state when she signed it. My mind raced, but I refused to back down. I was in college, I fired back, my voice shaking but firm. Enough, my mother said sharply, stepping forward like she was the one in control here. Hannah, this is how it's going to be. We are moving forward. This is what's fair. Fair. What was fair about any of this? Andrew deserves his chance, she continued, her voice cutting through the tension. We're giving you until Friday to clear out your things. The movers will be here on Saturday. I felt the air leave my lungs. They were serious. They weren't going to back down, and they thought I would just roll over and let them take what was mine. But something inside me, something cold, something sharp began to rise, and I wasn't going down without a fight. Not like this, not now. They stood there, the three of them, a united front of pure, unadulterated greed. My mother, my brother, and this charlatan. They were trying to steamroll me, counting on my illness, my weakness to make me crumble. But I was done being a victim. I would not let them take what I had fought for. And with that thought, I turned away from them, heading back into the house. They could think they had won, but they were wrong. They had no idea what was coming next. I couldn't just sit there and let them steamroll me. As much as my head felt like it was going to explode and my body was trembling from the fever, something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to let them take what I had fought so hard to protect. I might have been sick, but I was no fool, and they had underestimated me. Big time. I took a slow breath, trying to calm the chaos in my mind. There was no time to waste. They were expecting me to cave, to crumble under the pressure. But they didn't know who they were dealing with. I might have inherited a $5 million property filled with debt and chaos. But I was an estate appraiser. I knew how to work the system. I knew how to play the game. And I wasn't going to let my family tear it all down because they were too lazy to do their part and too greedy to understand the value of hard work. I pushed myself up off the sofa, my legs weak, but the fire in my chest pushing me forward. I grabbed my phone with shaking hands and dialed the number I knew I could trust. David Chen, my lawyer, the one person I could rely on to see this through. No matter what these vultures were planning, I needed him on my side, and I needed him now. The phone rang twice before he picked up. David, it's Hannah, I said, my voice hoarse but steady. I could hear him moving around on the other end, probably flipping through papers. I'd worked with him for years. He was the one who had guided me through the probate nightmare and helped me navigate the mess left by my grandparents' estate. He wasn't just a lawyer. He was someone I trusted. Hannah, I assumed they'd show up eventually, he said, his voice calm as always. What's their angle? I explained the visit, The fake lawyer, the fraudulent papers, the Friday deadline they had given me. I could hear the gears turning in David's mind as I spoke. He wasn't fazed by any of it. "Good," he said after a long pause. "You didn't engage. You didn't sign anything. You didn't even touch the papers." "Perfect." I could feel the tension in my shoulders ease just a little. David was right. I hadn't panicked. I had made the right move, even in my sick state. But the real work was just beginning. David's voice softened, and I could hear the smile in it. "Now, we let them build their own trap." The confidence in his tone was enough to make my stomach twist with excitement. I hadn't just been a victim in this situation. I had been playing them all along. They thought they were going to walk in, bully me out of the house, and take what was mine, but they hadn't accounted for my professional knowledge, my expertise. "You're an appraiser, Hannah," David continued, the words like a lifeline thrown out to me. "You know the value of a solid document, and you have the most solid one of all, the deed. That's your leverage." His words resonated deep within me. I had spent months working with documents, analyzing titles, reviewing deeds, and verifying ownerships. I knew the power of a legitimate, well-documented claim. And right now, that deed was my weapon. Theirs. A pile of fraudulent papers from a fake lawyer. "And don't worry," David added fast, "I want you to be there when they come back. You won't be alone. We're going to end this for good." The determination in his voice was contagious. I wasn't just going to fight to keep my home. I was going to expose them for the frauds they were. And I was going to do it with the law on my side. After hanging up with David, I couldn't just sit idly by, waiting for the day they would return. I wasn't going to let them corner me, and I certainly wasn't going to let them think they had won. My first step was to call someone I knew could help me, someone who had done favors for me in the past. Mike, a private investigator I'd worked with a few times for obscure estate cases. He was a guy who knew how to dig up dirt on just about anyone. And if there was one thing I needed right now, it was dirt on Mr. Peters, the so-called lawyer. I pulled up his number on my phone, dialing it with purpose. The phone rang twice before he answered. "Mike," I said, my voice steady now, the adrenaline starting to kick in. "I need you to find out everything you can about a guy named Mr. Arthur Peters. He's pretending to be a lawyer, but I'm not buying it. I need a full background check. Everything." Mike didn't ask questions, just gave a brief, "Got it," and hung up. That was all I needed. He'd get me the information, and I'd use it to dismantle whatever story my family was trying to sell. With that call taken care of, I knew I had to make sure my ducks were in a row. I couldn't just wait around. I needed to be prepared. My next step was to gather all the necessary paperwork. Everything that could prove without a shadow of a doubt that this property was mine and that Andrew and Margaret had no legal claim to it. I started with the deed, the one I had worked so hard to get signed and recorded in my name. That was my most important piece. But it wasn't just the deed. I had the probate court order, the final signed waivers from both Andrew and Margaret disavowing any interest in the estate. I had the bank statements, the records from the creditors, and all the documents proving that I had paid off the debt and worked tirelessly to restore the farmhouse. I pulled all of it together, making sure every page was in order, crisp, and clear. Nothing sloppy, nothing that could be questioned. I had spent enough time working in this field to know that it wasn't just about having the right documents. It was about presenting them in a way that made it impossible for anyone to question their validity. Next, I knew I needed a little extra protection. I wasn't going to let this turn into a confrontation with my family, especially not with Andrew's ego and Margaret's insistence on getting what she thought was owed to her. So, I decided to set up a small security camera, just a discreet one in the living room, aimed at the front door. I wasn't worried about my family trying to break in or anything, but I wanted to have everything on record just in case. And if anything did go down, I wanted the police to have all the evidence they needed. The last thing I did that day was prepare my own personal file. I kept it simple but thorough. I included the deed, the probate order, the signed waivers, the receipts from the bank, and Mike's report on Arthur Peters. I knew that report would be crucial. If I could prove that Peters wasn't a lawyer, if I could expose him for the fraud he was, then everything would fall into place. The evening before their return, I didn't sleep much. I was too keyed up, my mind racing with all the possible scenarios. I went over everything in my head, from the exact order I would present the documents to how I would handle the conversation with Andrew and Margaret. This wasn't just about winning. It was about protecting myself, my home, and everything I had worked for. The next morning, I was ready. My fever had broken, but the exhaustion was still there, lingering at the edges of my mind. I didn't care. Though, this wasn't about how I felt, it was about standing my ground. The plan was set. I had everything I needed. I was going to let them walk right into the trap they had set for themselves. And when they did, I'd be waiting. Not as a sick, helpless victim, but as the strategist. The one who had played the game and won. I wasn't going to let them win. Not now. Not ever. The more I thought about it, the more I realized how deep the game had become. This wasn't just about keeping my house. It was about something much bigger. My family had come in, demanding that I clear out, waving fraudulent papers in my face, counting on me to panic and fold. But they didn't know me. They didn't know what I could do when pushed far enough. They thought they were playing me, but really, I was playing them. I wasn't just going to defend my property. I was going to expose them. I was going to show the world what they really were: greedy, manipulative, and willing to go to any lengths to get what they wanted, and I wasn't about to let them walk away scot-free. The plan started with the basics. The first call I made was to the police. I wasn't going to wait for them to show up on my doorstep again, making demands, trying to bully me out of my own home. I knew my rights, and I was prepared to fight for them. But I also knew that having the law on my side was the best way to make sure everything went smoothly. I called the non-emergency line at the local precinct. Speaking directly with Sergeant Miller, I explained the situation calmly, professionally. I told him about the fraudulent documents, the fake lawyer, and the looming threat of forced eviction. I didn't need the police to intervene in a civil matter, but I wanted them there. I wanted them to be a presence, just in case things went sideways. "Sergeant, I'm asking you to be there when they come back," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, despite the adrenaline pumping through my veins. "I don't need you to take sides, but I need you there to make sure nothing illegal happens." He was quiet for a moment, and then his voice came through the phone, firm and reassuring. "Ma'am, we can't get involved in a civil matter like this, but we can be there to ensure the peace is kept. If they show up with fraudulent papers and attempt to forcibly remove you, that's a crime. We'll be there." Relief washed over me. At least now I knew I had someone on my side who could step in if things escalated. But I wasn't relying on them to fight my battle. I was going to handle that myself. But the police presence would be crucial in making sure everything went according to plan. I asked him to send a car out to monitor the situation, to make sure that if my family tried anything stupid, they'd have someone to answer to. The next call I made was to the moving company. Andrew had been so confident, telling me that the movers would be there on Saturday at 9 a.m. I knew exactly which company he'd booked. He had used his own name, probably thinking I wouldn't figure it out, but I knew better. I called the company, pretending to be a concerned neighbor, just trying to get the details about the move. I asked about the time, the payment arrangements, everything. When the dispatcher confirmed everything, I asked one simple question: "Is the payment all set for the move?" "Oh, yes," she said. "He paid the deposit, but he's paying the balance on site, in cash." My stomach turned. They were planning to use my money after everything I'd done to save this property. Andrew had made sure the movers would take my things, pay them in cash, and act like they were just doing their job. But they didn't know what they were getting into. And I was going to make sure they knew the truth before they even set foot in my house. Next, I focused on the house itself. I wasn't going to let them come in and do as they pleased, pushing me around without any resistance. I needed to make sure the house was set up properly secure, ready for whatever might happen. I set up a discreet security camera in the living room, facing the front door. I wasn't worried about my family breaking in or anything like that. I knew they wouldn't go that far. But I wanted everything on record. I wanted to be able to prove, beyond a shadow of a doubt, what was happening when they showed up. It was a small, subtle camera, nothing that would stand out to the movers or anyone else, but it would be enough to capture everything they did, everything they said, and it would give the police something to work with if things got messy. I didn't just stop there, though. I knew I needed more. I had to be ready to present the documents in a way that would make it impossible for them to argue. I gathered everything I could find that proved the house was mine. Everything from the original deed, the probate court order, to the final paid-off statements from every creditor I had dealt with. I had copies of the signed waivers from Andrew and Margaret, the ones they had signed when they decided they didn't want anything to do with the property. I had it all. But I also knew that just having the documents wasn't enough. I had to be prepared to back them up. So I spent the evening putting everything together, making sure everything was in order. I wasn't going to let them walk in and make a mess of things. I had everything lined up perfectly, ready to go. And I knew that once they saw the evidence, they wouldn't have a leg to stand on. I also made sure to get my story straight. I couldn't afford to lose my cool when they showed up. I had to be calm, collected, and strategic. They were expecting me to panic. They were expecting me to fold. But I wasn't going to do that. I had spent months building a life here, turning this house into something I could be proud of. They thought they could take that from me, but they had no idea who they were dealing with. By the time Friday rolled around, I was ready. I didn't sleep much the night before. I had too much on my mind. I spent the night going over everything again, checking the security camera, reviewing the documents, making sure that every detail was perfect. I wanted to make sure there were no loose ends, no cracks they could slip through. When Saturday morning came, I was already awake. I got up early, dressed in something simple but professional. I knew I needed to look the part. I wasn't going to let them think I was some weak, sick woman who was going to back down. I was the owner of this house, and I was going to make sure they knew that. I checked the security system one more time. Everything was in place. The police car was parked down the road, out of sight, but ready to respond if needed. The movers were on their way, expecting to haul out all my things, and I was ready to face them all. This wasn't just about protecting my home anymore. This was about making sure they never thought they could take advantage of me again. It was about showing them that no matter what, I was stronger than they thought. And in the end, I was going to win. Not just because I had the house, but because I had the truth, the law, and the strategy on my side. Saturday morning arrived, and the tension in the air was palpable. I was sitting on the porch, sipping coffee, trying to keep my nerves in check. The day had finally come. Andrew and his team were about to show up, thinking they could waltz in, take what they wanted, and walk out without a second thought. But I wasn't going to let that happen. Not today. I had spent hours preparing, making sure everything was in place. The police were just down the road, hidden behind the old oak trees, waiting for the signal. My lawyer, David, was right beside me, his briefcase in hand, looking every bit the part of the professional I knew him to be. I had dressed for the occasion, simple, professional, nothing too flashy, but enough to show them I was serious. This wasn't some emotional outburst they could brush off. This was business. At 9 a.m. on the dot, the yellow moving truck appeared at the end of the driveway, The giant truck rumbled up the gravel, making a scene just as planned. The movers got out of the truck, looking around awkwardly, clearly not sure what to expect. I watched them, my heart steady, knowing exactly what was coming. I could hear the crunch of gravel underfoot as Andrew's beige sedan pulled up behind the truck. And then he appeared, Andrew, grinning ear to ear like he was about to win a prize. But there was no prize for him today. No. Today was all about exposing the truth. He stepped out of the car, his suit as crisp and flashy as ever. His eyes scanned the porch, and for a moment, they locked onto mine. He faltered just slightly, as if he hadn't expected me to be waiting for him, as if he thought I'd be holed up inside, scrambling to pack up my things like he imagined I would be. But there I was, sitting calmly, holding my coffee, waiting. His grin faded for just a split second, but it quickly returned as he walked toward the movers. "Morning, fellas," he said, his voice loud and overbearing, trying to make the situation feel normal, trying to push through the awkwardness. "This is the place. We're doing a full clear out." But as he got closer, his eyes finally landed on me. He stopped in his tracks, clearly taken aback. I wasn't just sitting there. I was sitting there with David, my lawyer. His presence was like a silent, weighty confirmation that this wasn't going to go how Andrew had planned. "What's going on here, Hannah?" Andrew called out, his voice stiff with disbelief. He didn't like being caught off guard, and he certainly didn't like that I was sitting there, so calm, so in control. I took a deep breath, letting it out slowly before I answered him. "This is my lawyer, Andrew," I said, my voice carrying across the driveway, firm and steady. "And this is my property." Andrew's eyes darted between me and David, his smug expression starting to crumble. "A lawyer," he sneered, his arrogance quickly returning. "Hannah, really, you're making this difficult." David didn't move, didn't flinch. He stayed right beside me, his posture unwavering. And as Andrew made a move to come up the stairs toward the porch, David stepped forward, blocking his path with ease. "I would not do that if I were you, Mr. Gable," David said, his voice quiet but laced with authority. Andrew's expression faltered for a moment. He wasn't used to being talked to like this, especially not by someone who was clearly in charge. He tried to recover, his gaze shifting to the movers, who were standing awkwardly by the truck, unsure of what to do. "We have the papers," Andrew snapped, his voice strained now, as if trying to reassert control. He pulled a crumpled set of papers from his jacket pocket, holding them out in front of him, like they were a golden ticket. "We've got everything we need to take this place." David didn't flinch. He took the papers from Andrew's hand, calmly inspecting them, flipping through the pages with a practiced eye. "These," David said, looking up from the fraudulent documents, "are not valid." Andrew's face drained of color, his eyes wide in shock as David continued. "This is a fascinating piece of creative writing," he said, his tone light but edged with menace. "But it is not a court order. There's no case number, no judge's signature, and this letterhead," David said, pointing to the paper, "belongs to a man named Arthur Peters, who, as it turns out, was disbarred for real estate fraud in 2019. The realization hit Andrew like a punch to the gut. His arrogance shattered in an instant. "No, that can't be right," he muttered, but the fear was already creeping into his voice. "Oh, it's right," David said, his voice sharp now, a thin smile tugging at the corner of his lips. "Mr. Peters is a convicted fraudster, and you hired him to try and steal this property." I watched Andrew's face turn from disbelief to panic. His gaze flicked to the movers, who were now looking uncomfortable. They had no idea they were caught up in a criminal conspiracy. They had been promised cash for a job that, as David was now pointing out, wasn't just a mistake, it was a felony. The movers stood there, frozen, unsure of what to do next. One of them stepped forward hesitantly. Officer, he said, looking at David. We were just hired to move some stuff. David didn't hesitate. He turned to the lead mover and, without missing a beat, said, We're not here to make this difficult, but these documents are fraudulent. And your employer, he glanced at Andrew, is attempting to steal this property. You can walk away now, and you won't be involved in anything illegal. The movers exchanged nervous glances, and in that moment, I could see them begin to realize the gravity of the situation. One of them nodded, taking a step back. We're out of here, he muttered, and the others quickly followed suit, backing away from the truck. Andrew's face twisted in rage, his fist clenching. You can't do this, he shouted, his voice rising. But it was too late. The police car had just pulled up the driveway, its lights flashing, cutting through the bright morning light. Sergeant Miller stepped out of the car, his calm, authoritative presence settling over the scene like a weight. He didn't rush, didn't make a scene. He simply walked over, his eyes scanning the situation with practiced ease. Good morning, folks, he said, his tone flat but firm. He turned to David. Mr. Chen, we've got everything we need here. I'm assuming these gentlemen are ready to sign their confessions. Andrew's face twisted in fear now, and he looked at me, his eyes wide with disbelief. You called the cops on your own family, he hissed, his voice shaking. I called them to protect my property from criminals, I said, my voice cold as ice. Which, right now, includes you. The shock on his face was almost satisfying. I had no sympathy left for him. Not after everything he'd done. Not after he'd tried to steal from me. From our family. As Sergeant Miller stepped forward to handle the details, I turned to the movers, who were already packing up, leaving without a word. The police had everything under control now. My family's plan had failed spectacularly, and it was about to get worse for them before it got better. This is over, Andrew, I said, finally meeting his eyes one last time. And you've lost. It was a pivotal moment. The tables had turned, and I had won. Not just the property, but the truth, the justice, and the power to take control of my own life. They thought they could take everything from me, but they had no idea what I was capable of. The scene slowly began to settle, and with it, the weight of what had just happened began to sink in. Andrew stood there, frozen, his face pale and rigid with shock. My mother, Margaret, looked as though she had just been slapped in the face. The fake lawyer, Arthur Peters, was standing off to the side, his smug expression now replaced by a nervous, jittery look. He had no idea how deep the hole he'd dug himself was. Andrew, finally coming to his senses, took a step toward me, his voice barely above a whisper. You've won, he muttered, the words barely making it out through clenched teeth. But this isn't over. I couldn't help the cold, almost satisfying smile that crept across my face. It wasn't a victory I was savoring out of malice, it was a relief. This was the moment I had been waiting for. The moment where all the hard work, the sleepless nights, and the battles in court had paid off. The moment where I had taken control back, not just of the property, but of my life. Sergeant Miller walked over to Andrew, his expression hard, no sympathy in his eyes. You and your associates are free to leave, he said, his voice calm but firm. But make no mistake, you're not walking away from this without consequences. Andrew's arrogance was gone, replaced by an almost palpable sense of defeat. He looked like a man who had been caught, not just in a lie, but in a conspiracy he could no longer escape. The smugness that had once been his trademark had evaporated, leaving him with nothing but regret. You're not going to get away with this, Hannah, Margaret said, her voice shaking with a mix of anger and fear. She looked at me as though I was the one who had betrayed her, and not the other way around. But I wasn't going to let her off the hook either. You had your chance, I said calmly. You both did, and you chose greed over family. You don't get to turn back now. The police were already taking their statements, and it was clear to everyone that this wasn't going to end in their favor. Arthur Peters, who had been trying so desperately to appear professional, was now just a fraud caught in the act. The investigation into him had already begun, and he would be facing charges for conspiracy, real estate fraud, and forgery. His career as a so-called lawyer was over, and the criminal charges against him were enough to guarantee that he wouldn't be practicing law again, at least not legally. As for Andrew and Margaret, their actions had sealed their fate. The police weren't going to arrest them, not today. Not in front of everyone, but they would be facing their own consequences. Margaret would have to answer for her involvement in the scheme. And Andrew, well, he had a long road ahead of him, full of legal battles and consequences for his part in trying to steal my home. But the truth was, what mattered most wasn't their punishment. It wasn't about seeing them pay for what they had done. It was about me taking my life back. The property was mine. I had won, and it felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Not just the weight of their threats, but the weight of my past, of feeling like I was always the one holding everything together while they did nothing but take. This experience had changed me. It had given me a sense of strength, of clarity. I had stood my ground when they thought they could crush me under the weight of their lies. And I had come out on top. As the police firm finished up their paperwork, I walked back into the house, the familiar creak of the old wood beneath my feet grounding me in the moment. The place that had once been a symbol of everything I'd inherited, the debts, the burdens, was now a symbol of my resilience. Every room, every restored floorboard, every corner of this farmhouse was a testament to what I had built, what I had fought for. David stood beside me, giving me a nod of approval. He knew exactly what this meant for me. This wasn't just about property. It wasn't even about family. It was about proving to myself that I was stronger than I had ever given myself credit for. And in that moment, I knew I was different. I wasn't just the appraiser. I wasn't just the responsible one. I was the owner now. I had taken control. I had protected what was mine. As the day wore on, I took a deep breath and looked out the window. The sun was setting over the fields, painting the sky with golden hues. It felt like a new chapter in my life was beginning. The fight wasn't over, but it had shifted. I wasn't just defending my property anymore. I was reclaiming my future. The next step was clear, and I would continue with my work as an estate appraiser, but I would do it with a newfound sense of confidence. I had learned to trust myself, to stand up for what was right, and to never let anyone take what was mine. And perhaps most importantly, I would take the lessons from this experience with me, using my skills to help others who might be in a similar situation. The farmhouse was no longer just a house, it was my sanctuary. I had saved it from the banks, and now I had saved it from my own family. I would never forget what it took to get here. But now, with the weight of the past behind me, I was ready for whatever came next. And there you have it. The road to reclaiming what's mine wasn't easy. But sometimes the hardest battles lead to the greatest victories. It's not just about protecting your property, it's about protecting yourself, your future, and your peace of mind. If anything, I hope this story shows that, no matter the odds, standing up for what's right can change everything. Thanks so much for sticking with me through this journey. If you enjoyed the story or found it inspiring, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to follow along with more stories like this one. We all face battles in life, but as long as we keep pushing forward, we're never really alone. Stay strong and take care.